Hey guys, it's Saga, and in this video, I'm going to put the cameras on the OnePlus Nord 2 up against the ones on the iPhone 12. We all know that the iPhone 12 costs twice as much as the OnePlus Nord 2. But does that automatically make its camera better? Or will the 50 megapixel main camera on the Nord 2, backed up by the powerful ISP on the MediaTek Dimensity 1200 processor, perform better? That is what we will try to find out. Now the point of this video is not to show how well the iPhone 12's cameras perform, but to see how far the cameras on the mid-budget smartphones have come. And to find out, do you really need to shell out upwards of 60,000 rupees just to get a good set of cameras on your phone? Now although the iPhone 12 costs more, it still gets a dual camera on its back, whereas the OnePlus Nord 2 sports a triple camera setup on its back. We have to look at over 150 image and video samples from both these phones combined. So to keep this video from getting any longer than it already is, instead of going through all the camera specs, I will leave them in this slide. You can pause the video and go through them if you want. Let us start with the videos. iPhone 12 can shoot 4K videos at 60 fps, but this is a 4K 30 fps video sample because that is the maximum frame rate and resolution that the OnePlus Nord 2 can do right now. Nord 2's video seems to have a bit more added sharpness to it, which makes it look a bit processed, whereas the iPhone 12's video looks much more natural. We are noticing this because we are comparing these videos side by side, but if we look at the videos from the Nord 2 alone, I doubt anyone will even notice this. There is a bit more contrast in Nord's videos, whereas the iPhone's video seems to have captured more details in the shadows. Occasionally, you will see focus hunting and a few frame drops here and there in the video from the OnePlus Nord 2, but you won't see anything like that in iPhone 12's videos. Both phones have support for OIS and EIS for stabilizing these videos. I was walking normally while taking these videos, and the phones were handheld without any other supporting equipment. Both the phones have done an excellent job on stabilizing their videos. It is no surprise that iPhones are known for taking excellent videos, but OnePlus Nord 2 is also doing a very good job here. It's not very often that we find Android phones that are very good at shooting videos, especially in this mid-budget segment, but the Nord 2 is almost going head-to-head with the videos from the iPhone 12, which is a very difficult thing to achieve, so a big thumbs up to OnePlus for that. Let's now move on to the images and start with the ones which I took in bright daytime. It is monsoon season in India, but I was fortunate enough to have bright sunny lighting conditions during most of these daytime shots. Nord 2 has a 50 megapixel primary camera, but these are 12.6 megapixel pixel bin images from its main sensor. Images from both the phones look detailed from this far, but if we zoom in, we see iPhone 12's images being sharper and having more details. Since the Nord 2 uses pixel binning, size of each individual pixel on its sensor becomes bigger, so I initially thought it would be the one capturing more details in these shots, but it is the other way around. iPhone 12 has a wider aperture which lets in more light on its sensor, so its images are slightly brighter. It also captures warmer colors, whereas the Nord 2 tries to cool the shot down. As I said before, it was nice and sunny when I took these shots, and the warm sunlight made these beige walls reflect some of that light back to us, which you can see in the iPhone's images. Whereas the Nord 2 tried to mess with the color temperature of the shot and tried to make the walls look white. And that is not how the scene looked with my eyes. This was a very bright scene, and both the phones had their HDR mode set to auto. Nord 2 failed to preserve a lot of details in this bright roof, and for some reason it also tried to add a lot of sharpness to this shot, making it look a lot processed. This is something that the Nord 2 does when the HDR mode is turned on or left on auto. It does bring up a lot of details from the shadows, but in that effort makes the overall HDR shot appear a bit too flat. Again in this shot, the HDR mode was on and the Nord 2 tried so hard to bring up the details in the shadows that it ended up making the image look flat. And if we zoom in, we barely see any details in the shadows in its image. Whereas iPhone 12 did well with the dynamic range, and it has also captured a lot of details in the process. Here is another HDR shot. iPhone's image looked balanced, but if you look at this part, it did not preserve any details in the highlights. Nord 2 on the other hand did much better with the highlights, and it also brought up much more details on the shadows, but its overall image looks a bit faded. You guys have a look at these two images and let me know in the comments which one looks better overall. In this shot, Nord 2 did much better than the iPhone 12, both in terms of dynamic range, and it also captured better colors. But it is a very rare thing to get this kind of balanced performance from the OnePlus Nord 2. In the next few shots, this is what it did when the HDR mode was turned on. In a sense, it did well to bring up the details in the shadowed parts of the tree, but the overall image doesn't look good at all. In some of the shots, even when the HDR mode was turned on, it captured so much more contrast that the shadows seem to have no details at all. So the HDR mode on this OnePlus Nord 2 is very inconsistent. OnePlus has released a few updates for this phone in the last 40 to 45 days, and one of those updates even promised to improve the HDR performance. But even after the said update, I did not see any improvements in its HDR shots. Every once in a while, one shot turns out to be good. But for every good shot, there are 6 to 7 bad ones. So I kept the HDR mode on the Nord 2 off for most of my shots. Nord 2 is trying to capture natural looking colors, whereas iPhone 12 is adding slight saturation to its images. Sometimes, capturing colors as they were might make the shot look a bit dull like in these images from the Nord 2, whereas iPhone 12's images are looking a bit better with some warmth and saturation in them. Color is a personal choice, so which of these two images you like will depend on your color preference. Your choice might not be the same as mine, and that is completely fine. All that being said, other than the slight change in the color temperature and white balance of the Nord 2's images, they don't look too different than the ones from the iPhone 12. You can always edit the colors in Nord 2's images and add a bit more saturation in them if you want, and they can look similar to the ones from the iPhone 12. So for bright daytime shots, we can say that the main camera on the OnePlus Nord 2 is not too far behind the iPhone 12. If you have liked this video so far, please make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you get notified when I upload a new video. Nord 2's main camera has a 24mm lens, whereas the one on the iPhone 12 has a 26mm one, so the Nord can capture slightly more of the scene with its main camera. To capture even more of the scene, both these phones get a dedicated wide lens. This lens lets you capture so much more of the scene by standing at the same exact spot. The wide lens comes in handy when you need to capture more of the scene than what the main camera can see and you don't have any place to move behind, or when you want to show scale of things. You can even get creative and try to capture everyday objects with a different perspective with this lens. Now the Nord 2 gets an 8MP sensor behind it, so its wide images don't have as many details as the 12MP wide shots from the iPhone 12. iPhone's wide shots even show a slightly better dynamic range when the situation demands. Ever since Apple started giving a wide lens on their phones, they were very good at matching the white balance and color temperature between these two lenses, and this was something that most of the other manufacturers struggled to get right on their phone. But it is nice to see OnePlus try and be much more consistent with it on the Nord 2. There is a very little difference between the colors of its main and wide cameras, and that is really good, especially for a phone in this price segment. On both the phones, you get an option to take 2x images, but none of them have a dedicated telephoto lens, so these are not lossless zoomed images. They are digitally cropped in and enhanced images from the main camera itself, so they don't have too many details in them. You can still get away with some of the 2x shots in bright lighting conditions, but these images quickly start falling apart if you zoom in on them any further. Now the Nord 2 is very notorious when it comes to focusing on any nearby object. It will take its sweet time to set the focus. iPhone 12 on the other hand is very fast at setting focus on any nearby object. This becomes very important while taking close-up shots. You don't want the phone to keep on hunting for focus when you take these close-up shots, because that can get very frustrating if you want to take close-up shots back to back. Once the focus is set, then the close-up shots look very good from both. The subject in these shots is a bit sharper in the iPhone's images, and since it also has a wider aperture, the background in its shots is also blurred out a bit more. That being said, if you look at Nord's images individually, they look really good on their own. If only OnePlus could try and fix the slight focusing issue, Nord 2 will be able to take some really good close-up shots. Alright, now coming to the portrait shots. If you are a long-time follower of this channel, you might know that this is my favorite mode to shoot in on any smartphone. When it comes to detecting edges and separating the subject from the background, iPhone 12 seems to be doing a better job. There is a hard cutoff between the edges of the subject and the background in Nord's portrait shots, whereas this roll-off is much more smoother and natural in iPhone 12's portrait shots. Colors also look much more lively and pleasing in iPhone's portrait shots, and the faces are also more detailed, whereas they are a bit softer in Nord 2's portrait shots. Personally, I prefer the portrait shots from the iPhone 12. But you guys can have a look at these shots and decide for yourself which one looks better to you. These are very tough and challenging lighting conditions, and it is nice to see that the Nord 2 is not completely messing up the shot. With a bit of editing, its portrait shots can turn out to be pretty good. While taking portraits of objects, OnePlus Nord 2 shows better edge detection, but the subjects are very soft or almost out of focus in its images, whereas they look much sharper and have a lot of details in iPhone's portraits. Now coming to the images which I took in indoors, artificial and lower lighting conditions. Both phones get OIS on their main sensor, so that helps them capture better images when the light goes down. iPhone 12 has a wider aperture, so most of its low light images are brighter than the ones from the OnePlus Nord 2. If you zoom in, you can also see more details in the shots from the iPhone 12. But if you don't zoom in, shots from the OnePlus Nord 2 are not too bad, it's just that its images have slightly less light in them. iPhone's images are brighter, but in these shots there is also a lot of noise. All these images were without the night mode on both the phones. Images from the Nord 2 don't appear that good when compared against the ones from the iPhone 12, but if you look at Nord's images alone, I think they look really nice. The night mode adds in a lot of light and details in these images from both the phones. But if we zoom in, iPhone's images are still more detailed. I'm really surprised that OnePlus could not take full advantage of the data that this 50 megapixel sensor is capturing. This goes to show that megapixel count isn't everything. The image processing that goes behind in the background plays an even more important part in how the images will turn out. In some of the scenes like these ones, night mode added exceptionally more light in the shot and made them appear too bright. While in others, the change in brightness was subtle, but the night mode helped add more details overall. iPhone's images are still brighter and show a bit more details, but the Nord 2's low light performance is also very commendable. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. iPhone gets a 12 megapixel front-facing camera and the Nord 2 gets a 32 megapixel one, but the actual selfies from the Nord 2 look like they were clicked with a toy camera. There are no details in them, colors don't look good, and the dynamic range is all messed up. iPhone 12 selfie camera is also not the best, but compared to the one from the Nord 2, it takes much better selfies with good looking colors. Portrait selfies look slightly better from the Nord 2, and in some of the portrait selfies, iPhone makes the skin appear too red for some reason, while in others it does a good job. So front facing camera wise, iPhone 12 has a much better one. So we have seen over 150 image and video samples from both these phones, and other than in the HDR shots and selfies, we haven't seen a huge gap in the performance of both these phones, which goes to show that the Nord 2 is not too far behind the iPhone 12 in the camera performance. This also means that you don't need to spend a ton of money to get a good set of cameras on your phone. iPhone 12's images are definitely better in almost all lighting conditions, but I don't think its performance was 2 times as good as the cameras on the OnePlus Nord 2. The only thing is, all cameras on the iPhone 12 perform really well, whereas on the Nord 2, only the primary rear camera seems to be knowing what it's doing, and the other 3 cameras, including the front-facing one, are just there for the sake of it. So if you mostly take your images only with the main rear camera of your phone, and if you don't take too many selfies, then the Nord 2 will give you a very good camera performance in under 30,000 rupees. These were my thoughts about the cameras on both these phones. But you guys saw the images too, so what do you guys think about them? Let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.